Welcome back, class. We are going to complete our journey talking about slope today. That's right. This is the last lesson that we're going to talk about slope. So hooray for that. So we've talked a lot about slope and y-intercept. We know what it is. We know how to find it from tables, from graphs. We know what it means. The nice thing about this lesson is that it's the last one about slope, but we're going to learn some shortcuts that are going to make graphing lines quick and easy for reals. Go ahead and pause, add to your table of contents. Start a new page and title it Graph Using Y equals mx plus b. And what we're going to focus on today is how we can graph a line using slope and y-intercept. So we know that when an equation is in slope and y-intercept form, we have the y equals mx plus b, where m is our slope and b is our y-intercept. And we can very clearly see the slope and the y-intercept. So let's just check in here and make sure we understand that. I'm going to look at what is in front of the x, and that's going to tell me my slope. So my m, which is my slope, is 2/3. I'm going to look at what comes after the x, and that is my y-intercept, or my b. So my y-intercept in this example is -4. Same over here. I'm not going to forget about my negative. I'm going to look in front of the x, and that's going to tell me my m, or my slope, which is -5. And then I'm going to look at what comes after, and that is 3. If you put a +3, that's not wrong. It's just not really necessary. Go ahead and pause and copy this down. Let's make sure you understand. So the slope of this, our m, I have to think about what is hiding here. Okay, there's an imaginary 1 there. So if you don't see a coefficient in front of the x, that tells you that it's 1. And my y-intercept is whatever comes after. So my b is going to be 2. This one here, I look at what's in front of my x, that's my slope. So my m, my slope, is 3/4. And then I look at what comes after, and I'm not going to forget that negative sign there. And my b, or my slope, is going to, or sorry, my y-intercept is going to be -2. All right, we'll do that in class tomorrow. All right, so in the dark ages, before we were enlightened, we'd have to pick some x's, like, -1, 0, 2, and we'd have to chug it through this equation. We'd get our x, y's, we'd have to put them, and we'd have to plot them. But now, knowing what we know about, like, hey, that's our slope, that's our y-intercept, we can just put it all together pretty easily. So it's good to start with the y-intercept. In this case, it's +2. So it's the y-intercept. So I'm going to go to my y line and mark the y-intercept. Then I'm going to use the slope to find another point. So my slope is 3, and remember that really means my rise over my run. So I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 1 and put a point. It's usually helpful to do more than 1. So I'm going to go up 3 and over 1. You can also throw it in reverse to give you some more points to make it easier on yourself. So I can go down 3 over 1, down 3 over 1. And now I can play connect the dots, see how straight of a line I can get. Oh man, that's really bad. Pretend that was a straight line. Voila! Go ahead and pause and copy that business down there. So again, we're just going to look at our equation that's in y equals mx plus b format. We're going to plot the y. We're going to use the slope, rise over run, to give us another point. And then using a straight edge, like even just a folded up piece of paper or the edge of your folder is totally fine. You can draw a line across the whole entire graph, connect all the points, and put arrows at the end. All right, I want to show you something cool about how slope and y-intercept affect a line graph. I'm going to open up this little interactive here. So right now I have the equation y equals x. My slope is 1 because I got that imaginary 1 hiding in front of the x. If I bump it up to 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x. So again, my slope tells me how steep the line is. If I go below 1. All right, now there's 0 slope. Remember slope man? That's this weird meh face at the bottom. Then if I go negative, then my line starts going down. And the bigger my negative number, meaning the bigger absolute value it has, the steeper it is. All right, well, that's just slope. What happens if I mess with the y-intercept? So I can move it up, and then now, look. Now let me give it a little slope there. My y-intercept is 3. Okay, so that would be y equals 2x plus 3. Or I can move it down and have a negative y-intercept. And you can see how that messes with the equation. Alrighty. So watch me try a few more. So again, I'm going to start with my y-intercept. So my b in this case is -1. So I'm going to start by putting a dot at -1. I'm going to use my slope, my m, which in this case is 2/3. That's my rise, that's my run. So I'm going to go up 2 and over 3. Up 2 over 3. Okay, I can go in the other direction to get myself another point, but you don't have to. And then again, please use a straight edge. I can't really do that on my little tablet here, but you know, boom. There's my line. I'm going from one edge to the other, and I'm capping it off with arrows because that represents that this function, this equation here, will go on forever if I get, you know, bigger y's and bigger x's, and it'll give me bigger y's, and this can go on forever. All right, one more example. I'm going to start with my y-intercept, which is right here after the x. So my y-intercept is 3. Get out of the way. Thank you. So I'm going to put a dot here at 3. And then I'm going to use my slope, my m, which in this case is -5 over 2. That tells me, negative slope tells me my line is going down. So I'm going to go down 5 and over 2. Down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 2. Boom. Okay. And then I'm going to connect the dots. La, 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 la. That was an 80s reference right there. It's okay that you don't get that. And then I got a nice long line here with endpoints at it, and there you go. Okay, you have a little note-taking paper there. Go ahead and start by identifying your slope and your y-intercept and follow those steps. We're going to do this together. So my slope is 1/2. My y-intercept is -3. I'm going to start with my y-intercept, and then I'm going to use my rise over run to plot my slope. So I'm going to go up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. I'm going to keep going with this pattern just to make it easier for me. Down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2. But again, you don't have to do multiple points. It just makes it easier to graph it, especially when you don't have a ruler you can use. Okay, one more on your little note-taking guide. My slope is -3. It's what's in front of the x here. My y-intercept is what comes after. +2. I don't have to put the positive, but I did, so there. I'm going to start with my y-intercept. That's where my line hits the y-line. Boom. And my slope, well, that's not rise over run format, so I'm going to put it in a fraction format. Remember way back when I was like, you're going to like it way better if you leave your slope as a fraction? This is why, because it makes it easier to graph. So I'm going to go down 3 over 1. Down 3 over 1. Down 3 over 1. And I'm going to throw it in reverse, up 3 over 1 like that. And I'm going to do step 3. Oh my goodness, it's horrible. And I'm going to connect those lines. Hopefully yours looks way better than mine, and throw some endpoints on it. Some people might wonder, well, like, okay, how do I know which way I go over? Just remember, negative slope, if I'm reading it from left to right, like I'm reading a book and I trace it, it's going to go down. So just check in with your slope, like this is positive slope, make sure the line's going up. All right, I would like you to give these a try right here on your note-taking guide, and we'll check in tomorrow. All right, great job, guys. We did it. We made it through slope. We'll revisit a couple problems when we start doing some algebra so we can, like, you know, connect our skills together. But, yeah, fun times, guys. Anyways, be sure to show up tomorrow with the front side of that note-taking guide filled out and have any questions for me. And as always, get a good night's sleep, and I'll see you in class tomorrow. Bye.